Welcome to the Wealthworthy Podcast. I'm Trisha.
Hi, I'm Darian.
Thanks for joining us. This week we'll be talking about the power of words. So we are excited to talk about just how words can really shape what you do next. It can have a huge bearing on your future. And there are lots of things that we probably also are regularly trying to work on ourselves. So how do you think words have impacted you, Darian? What kinds of things do you do to help maintain your own positive mindset?
I think you hit the nail on the head. Words have empowered my life a lot. Just growing up, my mom was always really encouraging, pushed me to do my best and pretty positive about all situations, no matter what the situation was. She found the good in that. As an adult, I always try to stay positive. Like, words are very important and they impact your life, and they have the ability to either encourage you, empower you, heal you, or bring negative things. I want to say in your life, but it's just like you are. Whatever you speak is what will come to fruition. So for me, I always think about it like you want to always speak positivity and light to others and yourself also.
I can see that. You definitely don't want to be in a situation where you're inviting negative things into your space because that's what you keep reiterating. But one of the things that becomes difficult is when you use language that gives you an escape. So sometimes, I caught myself even doing it the other day when somebody asked me if I was going to the gym. I'm like, I try to go to the gym. And it's like, you really do have to eliminate some of those words that help you to escape or give you some wiggle room in what you can get done. By saying that you'll try to do something, that's maybe I will, maybe I won't, versus yes, I'm going to do this today, or no, I'm not going to be able to make it. And a lot of times when we do that, it's because we know that there are things that may not be at the top of our list to do. It might not be high priority. And so instead of giving it a clear delineation to say, I'm going to do it or I'm not going to do it, we give ourselves the room to say no later instead of being direct right off the bat. So that's one thing that I am going to change my language so that I am speaking more clearly about what my intentions are and what I expect out of life. So definitely one of the things that will make or break a situation. Another thing that's really important that you said is around words being empowering, because there are a number of things that you can learn to do, practice doing. There are things that you can be striving for that you have no idea how you can possibly get it done, but you know that whatever the current situation is, that's not what you are committed to. When I was first looking for a role out of college, we were in the recession. And so when you look around, there were tons of people who were losing their jobs. There were tons of people who didn't know what their next steps would look like. And even with that, there's still some optimism that you'd be able to find what it is that you want to do without much challenge, right? I wanted the next day to equal, here's the job. And that's not what was happening. It was very much like, oh, well, let me review your resume for you. And in my head, I was already like, I've had a million people review this, okay? I don't need you to review my resume. I'm not going to say that. But that was definitely the internal conversation. Like, well, why isn't this good enough to pass this current step? Like, why can't I get past this current step? And that's where I really felt that using positive words helped to continue on that journey, trying to figure out what my next step would look like, because it wasn't happening on the time schedule that I wanted it to happen on. And if I had any doubt on what I would be doing next, I think that it would damage my whole long-term plan. because you just aren't focused on getting past the situation that you're in at that point. Has there been anything for you that you feel like words were really able to help you push forward?
Sometimes things don't always go as planned. You might come to a standstill, but having a positive mindset gives you that extra push and energy just to keep going. When you think about the power of words, people really don't think that in depth about it. They just think, oh, people say, well, the things that you say have an impact in your life. But I think sometimes it's just being mindful of the things you say, how you say them, and the intentions you have with your words. I really feel like that can make or break you in anything that you do. Attitude is everything.
I think too, when you have an idea of what you want the future to look like and it's not going that way, things really do feel like everything's crashing down, the world is ending, you don't know what the next step looks like. You're there crying on the floor, trying to figure this out. Like, what can possibly make the situation better? How can you change things? But past all of that, when you really put things into perspective and realize, like, hey, if I have a bad year, that's 1 year out of hopefully 100, versus it feeling like your whole life is screwed up. And I think too, like, a bad year doesn't equate to now all of a sudden the next 20 years of your life have to be bad as well. And it's also how you define what bad looks like. So if you have an understanding that, like, yes, this didn't go well, this one situation didn't go well, but I can still change what that trajectory looks like. I can continue pushing forward to learn new things, to meet new people, to find ways to begin changing the course of my life. Like, those are the things that become more important than what you are actually doing on a day-to-day basis, because I think that what you're telling yourself in terms of positive speak becomes what you execute on a regular basis as well. So if you're saying, I'm going to work on this one skill, and you tell yourself that every day, you have some kind of mantra that pushes you to do something every day, then no matter what you had planned for your day, it will include steps that allow you to keep pushing forward on those goals until you begin even surprising yourself and figuring out, I had no idea that I would make it this far on this goal, because this is beyond what I even envisioned. And so that's the part that we can all get to if we are conscious of the language that we're using. So just be mindful of what you're telling yourself and how you begin to execute them.
Like I said before, you just have to be mindful of the words that you're speaking. You really have to stay positive through all things and keep that optimism. I really feel like you're in control to pretty much get the outcome that you want when it comes to things in life. Just keeping God first and trusting and believing that your situation will change. I always think about it like, your situation is your situation, but it's always someone out here going through way worse things than you're going through. So you always have to be mindful of that also, you know. It's always someone out here going through worse things than you. So you have to really understand that you're blessed, highly favored, and things are going to work out. It's just a process.
I see that, but you also have to be mindful of making comparisons. I think that's something that gets people into a lot of trouble in their heads, because now you see somebody who's doing better or worse, and it makes you start to figure out where you rank in all of that. And the competition is not necessarily a competition between you and everyone else, so you against the world, but it's how can you be the best person that you can be, versus trying to say like, well, this person doesn't have the same skills or the same health situation or family support, friend support. It's more to me about what can you do to gain those things on your own terms than getting stuck in the space where you're so concerned about people doing better or worse, especially when we're talking about today's social media era where you can be scrolling through your Instagram and seeing all the things that people have going on, but it doesn't necessarily equate to the full picture of what that person has going on. Things could be 10 times better, things could be 10 times worse, but does it really matter for what you have going on? You really have to figure out what will work for you, what things you need to be putting your focus on. And that's where the power of words really comes in. What kinds of things can you tell yourself daily? What kind of music are you listening to? What kind of things are you reading? Who is inspiring the thoughts that are coming to you? What are you journaling down? All of those things that you do on a regular basis to create the kind of positive think that's required for your own success is more important than just watching the things that other people are doing and trying to compare yourself to that. I mean, great if it provides some motivation, but if it's taking a toll on what you were trying to do, then I think that that's negative energy that you really need to put to the side for a little bit. Like, if anybody isn't providing you with the kind of support that you need to push forward, then it might be better to separate yourself from that situation. I always think that there are people who can be in your life for specific reasons, and it's good to know what those are. You might be fine speaking with somebody or hanging out with someone when you're just looking to have a good laugh versus if you need somebody to give you the real criticism or feedback necessary to propel you forward. You always have to decide what's going to work for you.
It's definitely important to surround yourself with like-minded and positive people. It'll really take you far in life. And it's okay to have friends, but not necessarily see them every day. You guys could still communicate with each other. You just have to know what each person is bringing to the table. Are they motivating you? Are they hindering you? I always like to say either you're an asset or you're a liability. You kind of have to figure out which of those the people are and navigate that space and protect your energy.
Yes, protecting your energy is huge. You really do have to figure out what things you can do to keep from feeling so worn down, because when I think about it, we really all want to be successful in everything that we have going on. And I also worry sometimes about overcommitting myself for different things, like trying to figure out how to focus on the things that are most important. So that goes back to our values conversations, like, well, what can you be focused on that's at the top of your priority list? What things are most important, and is everything you are doing now aligned with those things? I remember when I was interested in doing different internships and different jobs while I was in school, there was one guy who was really interested in helping students to find internships to set themselves up for the future, and it was great. I'm glad that you are able to use your time in that way, but it got to a point where he started turning students down. So like, people would reach out to him and he's like, well, I'm not helping students anymore. And I thought that was so strange that, you know, this guy that was known for helping people to navigate their own spaces was now in a position where he just felt that he couldn't give that anymore. And I think a large part of it was like, hey, he had a lot of things going on with his own situation. He was now married. They had a new business to focus on. I'm sure he had his own goals that he wasn't sharing with us students. And so just knowing that taking on the energy and the fights that everyone else has was just taking too much out of his own personal value system, or taking too much out of what he thought he could be able to provide assistance for, it was a way for him to protect his energy. And now years later, I can see how that makes sense, where you're like, yeah, if I'm giving all of myself to everyone else, am I able to give enough to myself? Am I able to do what I need to do? And so I think that's a real reality, trying to come up with what that flexibility really looks like. What things can you be lenient on, and what things do you really have to sternly say, I'm only going to use my time for things that help me towards this type of goal?
You have to take care of you and yours first and then help others. But even with that, it still can be tricky because people are draining you dry. Not on purpose, it's just they need assistance and you're the person that can help them at that time. So that's who they come to, but you have to understand that at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you and yours first. And if you have time and you want to help, that's fine, but you're not obligated to help the person. You can always give them advice in a way that not condescending, but still they'll get the help that they need.
But is that selfish? If you're just out there worried about yourself, is that selfish?
I don't think it's selfish, right? Because you're worried about yourself, but it's not like you're not helping others. You're just taking care of your needs and what you have going on first. And then you're coming back to the table and assisting others if you can. You just want to be mindful of that because it's like we only have so much energy in a day. And when you work 8 hours out the day, you're giving 8 hours of yourself to your job. Then you have to come home, give to yourself. If you're married, give to your spouse, your kids. And let's not talk about the extracurricular activities or things you have going on that you want to give to too. So when you add all that up, where is the rest of the time and energy you have to give to the other thing? That's just the reality of it.
I get that it's a reality. The hard part, though, is knowing all of the crap that goes on in the world. You know that you're dealing with political policies that you don't agree with, or you know that there are economic issues that you have challenges with, like people are homeless, people are in jobs that are beneath the worth that they have for themselves, people are underemployed. People are trying to make the best out of a situation when they have to care for their parents, or they have to care for their own kids, or care for a family member's kids, right? You see the potential in a lot of situations, but we all have to do some part. And that's where I think it becomes difficult. Like, how do you protect your energy, but still provide in a way that can help further situations that are important to you?
You just kind of have to gauge it and really map out what's going to work for you. I'm big on the protect your energy because I'm looking at it kind of like, I know what I have on my plate, and it's just when you start adding extra things that aren't a priority. I guess we can start there. I pretty much things that are priority because I think it's kind of like with that, people do what's most important to them, and it's about prioritizing and what you feel is important. And like I always say, something I live by, people spend their time and their money how they want, no matter whether you're rich or you're not where you want to be. People spend their time and their money how they want. So it's like when you look at that, like I feel like people are like, oh, I don't have enough time to do this. You have time, you just choose to use your time in the way you choose to use your time. And I think people aren't honest about that. It's just like, oh, I don't have time. But we all have time, and we choose how we spend that time.
I agree. Time is one of the things that we really do have to figure out how to use best, right? It's a limited resource that we all have, hopefully for a long time, but just choosing what you do with that time and within your 24 hours is what will make or break whatever it is you're pushing for. So if you decide, I want to double my income, the only way you're going to do that is to find opportunities that would help increase whatever it is that you're doing now. So I completely agree with the fact that you have to choose how you spend that time in order to reach your goals and reach your potential.
Sometimes I don't want to say it's hard. I don't feel like it's hard, but friends and family, sometimes they make it seem like, oh, you're selfish, you're all about you, and you don't really spend time like you should. But I think about it kind of like with all things in life, no one owes you anything. If a person takes their time out and spends time with you or does something for you, they're doing it out of kindness of their heart.
The reality when it comes to just talking about the strength in what it is that you're saying every day to yourself, to other people. Like, those are the things that inform your actions. So if you're telling yourself something that's not positive, so if you're feeding your brain with negative thoughts, saying like, hey, I'm never going to make it to this level, then all that negative talk translates in whatever it is that you're doing. So you really can't feed yourself with that kind of negative energy unless that's what you're looking to get out. It won't change until you take it upon yourself to change the narrative. So start telling yourself more positive things until it becomes your reality. And think of something huge. Think of something bigger than what you could even imagine happening, and just take it one step at a time. What could you do every day to get closer to that grandiose dream that you have? Just figuring out, what can you do? What can you tell yourself? What kind of mantras, meditation, music, people can you have around you that will help you to continue thinking positively, dreaming bigger, doing actions that get you closer to that dream, even if it's not on the timeline that you want. So that's our challenge to you today. Figure out, what type of things can you tell yourself that will get you further to your goal? What are the things that you want for yourself, for your family, for your friends, that you could impact on a regular basis? Until next time, thanks for joining us on Wealth Worthy. Bye.